Do you ever wonder why your middle schooler seems moody, distant, or suddenly hard to reach? In today's episode, counselor Carmen Bengoa shares what's really beneath the surface and how parents can rebuild connection, calm, and trust through some of the toughest years growing up. So stay tuned. Welcome to Fulfillment Therapy. I'm Kendra Nielsen, wife, mom, and licensed therapist. Do you ever feel like you're doing everything right, but you're still exhausted and empty? Did you think life, marriage, and parenting would be simpler and more rewarding? Sometimes you just want to crawl back into bed and lose yourself in screen time and chocolate, rather than face that personal or family stress. You are not alone. This podcast helps you break free of the rat race and build a richer, more meaningful life, flourishing incrementally and realistically, improving your mental health and wellness, and living with deeper purpose beyond the mundane, no matter where you are in life's journey. Welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy. Today we have a special guest, Carmen Bengoa, here with us. She's a licensed professional counselor with over 18 years of experience working with adolescents. So by day, she serves as a school counselor, and by night, she supports families in private practice. Carmen uses a family systems approach to strengthen relationships, foster healthy attachment, and help teens and parents navigate life's challenges together. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Carmen.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about you. How did you get into this space? Why you're passionate about it? Anything you'd like to share?
Yeah. My parents divorced when I was 9 years old. And throughout that process, I myself saw a counselor on and off. And it was just really helpful. And so just always had a space in my life of what would it like to be in the other chair. And so I've continued through with counseling my entire lifespan. Still am a big advocate for us all having like our own personal counselor and continue that practice. But I got my undergrad in elementary education, and I knew my first year of teaching that I wanted to be a school counselor at least at the minimum. So went on and later in my career ended up going and getting my LPC in graduate school and moved into the school counseling position. And then a couple years into that, realized that I love being in the school. That is probably a second home to me. It's always been a safe space. I specifically have worked in the middle school for the last 18 years. Love that developing brain time of life for children. And then decided, though, that I wasn't able to work with children at the capacity that I was hoping for when I had this envision of what a school counselor did. Then I moved on and opened a private practice. It's a need in our community where I live. Not a lot of counselors tend to see adolescents. So, yeah, that's what took me here.
I am so grateful that you take on adolescents as clients because I'm one of those that I'm like, I think somebody else would be better suited to this. So I'm really excited to pick your brain a little bit and so grateful for people like you that are serving that population. Thank you for that information. It helps us understand a little bit more about you and your story. So just hopping into the subject listeners have asked about and even clients, they often have these struggles connecting with their middle schoolers. Could you tell us this age range, what the middle schooler ranges that you work with, and a little bit about the struggles that you see with your clients, the things that they're facing?
Yeah, of course. So I work in a middle school that is 6th through 8th grade. So it's about an age range of 10 to 15, just depending on when they started their school year and the beginning of that. I notice there is quite a few challenges for both the parent and child as they are changing at a rate much faster than we will probably ever change in our entire lifespan. So, what I noticed the big difference is I taught both 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So it gave me a really good idea of being in the classroom of how the student interacts, even with an adult teacher. And it's significantly different from sixth grade to eighth grade. Just in that short amount of 3 years, you will see a huge difference. So a lot of times in sixth grade, the students are still in that developmental age. Adults are our heroes. And there's a lot of conformity that is still existing in that time period of their life. So it's a lot easier to manage a classroom. It's a lot easier to get homework done, which translates to home. It's a lot easier to get them to pick up their toys often or to behave a certain way in public. There's just more kind of a conformity because adults are put on a pedestal, and rightfully so, for safety. Young children need to see adults as that safe person because they cannot survive without that parent figure in their life at that age. The second part is they're going to start moving away from the home. And so we like to call it like the rose colored glasses start fading, and they start seeing parents and teachers and adults, authority figures. They start seeing their flaws. They start seeing them more as humans than heroes. And with that, they begin questioning often authority. They question rules. They question why things have to be a certain way. So we see less conformity and more exploration of what are the rules? Why do they exist? I don't like that rule. And what happens if I push back? What happens if I test that waters? And how severe are the consequences? Which is often frustrating for parents, teachers, and adults. Because it's like, what happened to my kid? They did everything I said. They thought I was the coolest person. They thought I was the coolest mom. And now they're mocking my outfit or my style and questioning, why do we have to have family dinner on Sunday? I don't want to have family dinner on Sunday. I want to be with my friends. So naturally, for parent and child, it is going to be a stage of more conflict in that relationship.
Thanks for giving us a little background on it. And just for clarity, you're saying about sixth grade, that's when the adults are heroes. And then is it then seventh and eighth grade where you start to see there's less conformity and that shift to parents being just normal humans?
Yeah, I would say that in sixth grade, there'll be some that are ahead of that that are already shifting, but you really see the transition in the middle school, working specifically in that environment where most sixth graders view the adults still as heroes. They're really trying to connect with that teacher. That's another thing you will see. They want to help the teacher and have the school jobs, as opposed to eighth grade. They're like, I don't ever want to talk to that teacher and let me just be with my friends. You even see that transition in the classroom, which again mirrors the transition that we see at home.
I love talking about these things because right now I have a middle schooler, I have a high schooler, an elementary kid, and I have a college student. So I'm getting all of the different stages, and it's so fun to hear how somebody can normalize it somewhat too, instead of internalizing it like, oh, I'm a terrible parent because my kid is starting to push away a little bit more, having some of these things come up. So I think it's important to talk about these stages and then what we can do. For example, I was talking to a colleague and friend recently, and he is actually a middle school counselor as well. I was telling him about challenges that some of my middle schoolers have had. And right now I have a daughter in middle school, and she is a delight. She's a beautiful, wonderful child. And she is struggling socially, which is very strange to me because by all appearances, she would be everybody's favorite. But then as I was talking to him, he was like, well, that's probably what 80% of the girls in middle school would say, that they don't have friends or people don't like them. Or can you speak to that a little bit and maybe even some differences in the genders or any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So another interesting fact is if you watch children play on a playground at the elementary school, they don't often care who they're playing with.
Mhm.
It's more about, I like this activity, and whoever wants to play this activity is who I'm going to surround myself with.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a need to belong to a group. When we move into middle school, it becomes less about the activity and more about finding who I'm going to connect with. So we start noticing maybe when I say something now, a person is giving me, they call it the side eye. In middle school, they're giving me a side eye and questioning what I'm saying, as opposed when I was focused on the activity that still could have been there, right? That physical response to whatever was said still could have been there. But there's this oblivious state to it as a child. So now they are able to observe the person as opposed to the game. So now there's this question of, do I fit in? I'm now looking at these external cues that my peers are giving me. I'm way more aware of that, which also then is way more aware of what I look like. I'm way more aware of what I'm saying and how that is perceived. That creates this idea of, do I fit in or do I not fit in? Do I belong or do I not belong? And belonging, again, is something we need for survival. And as the adolescent moves from the home into living within their own peer community amongst their own age-related people, then they are going to be looking to fit in or connect and start realizing, maybe I don't belong here, and that's not safe. And when we have the fear of not being safe, then we will see our adolescents having those negative self-thoughts, because then it translates to something's wrong with me, as opposed to later in our adult year, if we don't connect with somebody, we are able to process with their frontal cortex. We just maybe don't share the same interests. We don't share the same values. I know there's someone out there that shares that. But at the middle school, it's really hard for them to see beyond that school building, beyond their original friend group that really was built around an activity, not necessarily the qualities and characteristics of who we are as a human.
That is really helpful. Clients have talked to me about the struggle with their middle schoolers in these stages that you've talked about, feeling like they don't belong, really starting to pull away from their parents. Can you think of an experience personally or with clients or anybody where this was happening, and talk us through what that looks like and what you can do about it?
Yeah. Like needing to belong or fit in and how we can support our children in that process.
Yeah. And with that, just as parents, how to support them and how to work through that. Because at least for my daughter and my middle schoolers as well, in this stage, sometimes it becomes like behavioral problems, varying levels, but more like anger or lashing out or frustration. How do you deal with that in the home? Because they feel better about acting out at home generally. They don't do it at school as much. So, what do you do when you start to see that affecting other relationships and you're worried maybe, okay, is their mental health something I need to do more about? Or is this just a normal stage thing? Or what do I do?
Yeah. So, one of the things that I really want to speak to is empowering our adolescents,
Okay.
which when they're moody and they're irrational, it feels a little scary as a parent to leave some of these decisions up to them. It's also the safest time in their life with you at home to learn to handle some of this on their own in order to develop the skills that they're going to need into adulthood. One of the ways we really can do that is through, I don't know if you follow Dr. Dan Siegel, but he talks about the 4 S's and being able to keep those in our mind as a parent and removing ourselves as needing to fix it. A lot of times there will be this need of, I want to confront my child's friends, or I want to teach them to block them or just drop them or not associate with them. Like, you don't need them, just go find different friends. That's often a common solution that we tell our kids. You just don't even need them. You go find someone else. There's some validity in that. How do we allow our children to develop what they want to do more on their own, where they can develop skills to overcome these obstacles with the support of their parent?
Yeah. Do you mind sharing what the 4 S's are?
Yeah. The four S's, which in all stages of adolescence, young adulthood, childhood, early development, are one, safety. We want to be that safe person for our child. And that is very important because it is our job to protect our children. We want our home to be both a safe place and a launching pad. So, creating that is important that when they're having these big emotions, when they're having these outbursts, maybe they're having some irrational fears. Nobody's going to like me if I wear this to school, or if I don't try out for the team, I'm going to lose all of my friends. How do we create a safe place for them to explore some of those irrational thoughts that are coming up with the all or nothing thinking, some of that fear based thinking? So, one of the things is that we want to make sure as parents, we don't create fear with our children and that safety for our children. We want them to come to us when they're afraid, not be afraid to come to us. A lot of times when we're giving our adolescents advice, they become fearful of coming to us because we're just going to tell them what to do. And they are really desiring this place to explore what they want to do, how they want to handle it. Now, with saying that, we're going to mess up as parents. The idea is not perfection ever. If we notice that our adolescence is not coming to us, they're not sharing with us, that open communication of a secure attachment for safety is slowly diminishing, we can always repair that, right? So it's just having that conversation like, I noticed that you're not sharing as much about your struggles at school and checking in. Is there something I've done? Is there something that I have said has shut this form of communication down? Being really curious about what has changed in your parent child relationship that is decreasing the child's ability to openly communicate. What are they going through and what are their struggles as an adolescence? We also don't, in the safety place, we don't want to just let everything fly. Sometimes we get confused with that because they're going to be pushing boundaries. We want to stay consistent with the integrity of what our boundaries are while also honoring how they're feeling. They can have an irrational belief. We can honor that irrational belief. We can validate it and see, I can see why you would think that would happen. You're not going to be at practice with them. Maybe if I don't do the sport I don't love, I'm going to lose my friends. Okay, you are going to have less time with your friends. That thought is valid. And then how else could you connect with your friends? Like empowering them to start coming up with ideas of how to connect with them is really important, all while maintaining whatever integrity you need to have within your home to keep them safe as far as rules and boundaries. The second one is seen, and that goes back to honoring the adolescent's emotion, honoring what they're feeling, honoring what they need, again, while keeping them safe. One that comes up a lot of times is sometimes maybe a child will ask to go do something with a friend. Maybe it's, I want to go dirt biking. And maybe the rule is at home, you don't get to go dirt biking unless, your mom or dad go with you to supervise and make sure you're safe, because that's a more risky type of sport. And they're really pushing, but all my friends are going. And we can just see their emotion. You're really sad. You're going to miss out. This is really hard for you to miss out. Doesn't mean we have to let them go. Allowing them, which is so hard on us, allowing them to be mad, allowing them to be disappointed, allowing them to be sad, and allowing that emotion to start and work all the way to the finish and just being with them, just seeing them. I know if you're still upset, we don't have to take them to Disneyland to compensate for that. There's no need to protect them from that feeling of disappointment when we've set this boundary of your safety is number one, and this is our rule to keep you safe. Seeing them, seeing that emotion and allowing for it, even if we're uncomfortable in it. The other one is soothing. So sometimes we will try and soothe our children with more of this. external things like, okay, you can't go dirt biking, then we were just going to stay home and work in the yard, but now we'll go do something fun and exciting. That's not always the best choice, not that it's not a great choice, but that's not how we soothe our child. It might be how we meet their need for novelty, which is a really important need for adolescents to try new things. So if we recognize maybe they want to go do this because they're really in need of novelty in their life, that's wonderful for us to help meet that. But soothing really comes of, I can sit in this hard emotion with you. I'm not going anywhere. And I will sit here as long as you need. I am here. This is safe. I am going to remain calm. You can be mad at me. I'm going to just continue to validate. I love you. This is for your safety. I'm okay with you being mad because you're the most important person in my life. And I want you safe. And this is how we as parents believe we're going to keep you safe. And then the last one is security. And that is the repair part of parenting. It's really that teaching what Dan Siegel calls mindsight. And repair is where I can see physically you're mad because you're storming off to your room. But how do I see your inner workings? How do I see what's actually happening, like with your thoughts? It's like mind reading. And when we can do that, when we can notice that emotion, when we can see deeper into our child, we're also teaching them how to see deeper into us. We are modeling that ability to develop compassion and empathy when someone is struggling with something. And that's a really important thing for parents to model and provide for adolescents during this time.
So with those then safety, scene, soothing, and security, do you find as you are working with parents or working with middle schoolers that there's one that you don't see happen as much that parents struggle more with?
I would say the scene.
Yeah.
If I were to probably do a survey with my adolescent clients and students, do my parents see what I'm going through?
Yeah.
And I say
Right.
that would be the one.
Hey, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Part 2 with Carmen is next on how we can better connect with our middle schooler. I just want to quickly let you know about our internships. If you know anyone that would like to be part of the team and part of our internship experience to learn how to run an online business and help others improve their mental health and wellness, have them or even you email us at hello@fulfillmenttherapy.org. We take on new interns every semester, and it really gives you the experience you need if you're at all interested in that industry and being your own boss and learning the ropes without having to figure it out for yourself. So check that out or fill out our form at fulfillmenttherapy.org. Don't forget, we have new episodes every Monday, and we'll see you back here then. Hey friends, if you enjoyed this episode, a quick 30-second share can help someone else find support and help this podcast grow. Leaving a review on Apple Podcasts boosts visibility and keeps the show alive. Your simple acts make a big difference. I'll see you back here each week for more life-changing episodes.